College Basketball Invitational. It is beautiful Daytona Beach. What a time to be alive and what a spring afternoon here in the Sunshine State for semifinal number one. Incarnate Word out of the Southland, Illinois State out of the Missouri Valley Conference. We are getting set for this first semifinal matchup. These two teams combined to win nearly 40 games this year and still dancing. One of 44 teams left playing men's college basketball. Winner of this game get the winner of Florida Gulf Coast and Cleveland State, our second semifinal. Also on ESPNU later tonight here at the Ocean Center. We're going to be hanging out with Joe Lenardi for the next 2 days, which is fantastic. I'm Roy Philpott. He is Chase Walker, the big for the Redbirds that can get it done, Joe.
And I would say very big, but he's got to stay on the floor. Sometimes has stamina and foul trouble, but when he's out there, he's a double-double machine. Has committed to this program now and into the future, anchoring along with fellow soft Johnny Kinziger, an Illinois State team that is very much on the rise.
20 wins this season in the MVC, a fifth-place finish in that conference. Davion Bailey leads the charge for Incarnate Word for the Cardinals and head coach Shane Hireman. Bailey, all he's done this year, Joe, 125 threes made. That is near the top of America at this late hour in the season.
And 284 attempts. I'm from Philly, and we had a coach at Villanova years ago, Rolly Massimino, would talk about chuck and duck. I think he had guys like Davion Bailey in mind. I'm not sure I could physically manage 10 three-point attempts in a 40-minute game, but he averages that.
There are some head coaches in this country that would agree with that assessment, by the way. Maybe that weren't happy with you on Selection Sunday, but then again, it wasn't your decision who got in and who was left out, right?
I think there were only two that were unhappy.
Okay. Ready to go? Semifinal number one. We're going to give out some hardware tomorrow in the 5 o'clock Eastern Time championship game, the Purple College Basketball Invitational over on ESPN2. And we are underway with this veteran officiating crew. Redbirds get it first off the mark is Davis, and here comes Incarnate Word. Let's take a look at our purple starting lineups. As the Cardinals get down to business, Jalen Anderson puts up 15 per game. Heyman also has been impressive. That's a three to start for Davion Bailey right on cue.
285 now, three-point attempts for Bailey.
Starting lineups presented by Purple. Dalton Banks, Davis, Kinziger, Daugherty, and Chase Walker, the leading scorer. He'll get a touch. The second possession for Illinois State. It's the MVC versus the Southland. And nearly a steal. It's poked out of bounds.
They are ball hawks, the Cardinals. UIW, 15 or more steals in 2 of their last 3 games. The Illinois State staff very concerned about that. And I'm sure for a guy like Chase Walker, the message is, don't put the ball on the floor too much.
Be careful, 8 to shoot. And a foul inside.
Look, Roy, both of these teams just want to keep playing. Right? That's why you come to an event like this. If I'm a young college guy, I'm thinking, hey, win one more game, stay in Daytona, maybe not quite yet get back to class. All these things that factor into basketball in March.
Joe, the weather outside was not frightful today, was it? Along the beach?
I'm not going to tell you where I did my prep today, but...
Was that you laying out poolside?
Let's just say, for most of the season, brackets and game prep don't get done outside.
Until today. Up and in off the glass for Jordan Pike. That makes it 5-2. UIW, fast start. A couple of early buckets. Pike with 21. In the victory over Jacksonville yesterday in the quarterfinals. Daugherty for 3, off the heel, and it's poked over to Glover.
That's why Daugherty's in the game and on the floor. He is a three-point specialist.
Bailey off the right side of the rim. Here comes Dalton Banks.
Speaking of three-point specialists, Bailey.
And Daugherty unable to save it. Kinziger, and another turnover. Ryan Peedham, year number 3. Great conversation with him today, the head man at Illinois State. Really good friends with the head coach at South Carolina, Lamont Paris, going back to their days at Worcester.
He's trying to build a program the old-fashioned way with high school recruits, keeping them together, and a culture that evolves from that. And it's working.
Heyman off the bounce. And a foul called. He wants that to be in the act of shooting. First personal on Dalton Banks. Shane Hireman, year 2. He's the head coach of the Cardinals.
The older I get, Roy, the younger the coaches look.
It's amazing how that works.
You don't like it.
So Heyman at the stripe. 85% free throw shooter. Incarnate Word. 6-2 advantage early. I was worried about you. We didn't hear a lot from you right after Selection Sunday. Is that kind of like the time where maybe you step away from the flat screen and you get a chance to breathe for a minute?
Well, I'll be honest. Those shows that come on right after the bracket comes out, I hate doing them. Probably the wrong thing to say with our bosses listening. But I find that if I'm really dead on right, it looks like I'm gloating, and nobody likes that guy. And if I'm way off and I complain, nobody likes that guy either. So I'm better off going to work for .com, getting our tournament preview up and online, and saving the rest for a rainy day.
Well, it's good to see you. It's good to be working with you, my friend.
Great to be out. I know I missed it last year. Tried not to get COVID this year. So far, so good.
Knock on wood.
Amen.
Foul was called on Heyman. That's his first. They'll feed Glover inside. Check that.
That was a late whistle.
A very late whistle on the foul against Chase Walker.
If the foul was on the post play, appears that it was.
Just a second on Glover, and now decision time for Shane Hireman.
He doesn't have a ton of options in terms of post defenders with kind of the length and physicality. To stay with this guy who we're told just 2 years ago weighed over 400 pounds.
You go back to sophomore year in high school, checked in at about that weight. By the time he was a senior, it was at 325. And now at 270, he has worked hard on the physique, on the game, and the most improved player, rough and rugged MVC. 1 of 2 at the stripe. Turned out to be a pretty good shooter as well. 7-3.
Good hands, good footwork. And a definite all-league level player in the Missouri Valley.
Fight back to work, up and in, and right over the top of Walker.
Not an easy bucket, but we're seeing UIW make some tough shots. That's normally Illinois State's calling card. They have an effective field goal percentage that's top 15 in America.
Kinziger from deep, and the first 3 for the Redbirds. Makes it a 9-6 ball game. We will see some three-pointers shot here today, Joe.
No question. And the same goes for game 2.
Florida Gulf Coast.
That's the modern game.
It's what we do. It's Cleveland State out of the MAC. It's ASUN versus the MAC. Off the pump fake. Up and in. Jalen Anderson connects. It's 11-6 and a very hot start. 4 of 5 shooting for Incarnate Word.
Anderson, one of 3 key seniors for Incarnate Word, and they are a little bit of an older team, at least in the starting 5, than are the Redbirds.
10 on the timer for Chase Walker. Back to the bucket against Pike. He'll lay it up and in. Big man move.
It's a mismatch. And that's something you got to prevent prior to the catch, because it's a basket once Walker and the ball and the lane are in that proximity.
You sound like a coach there, Joe, not a bracketologist.
Well, the CYO team I coached about 15 years ago wouldn't agree, our oldest daughter. We went a robust 0-15.
That's tough to do.
It was a squad that got very little from their coaching staff.
Davis with a path and swatted out of bounds. There is a foul, and it's going to go on Jordan Pike. Free throws coming when we come back, but we are off and running in Daytona Beach. Back and forth, a three-point game. Pike the bucket right over the top of Chase Walker. And then on the other end, here come the Redbirds, the three-pointer.
I'm a
three-point lead against Illinois State. And they wanted to go back and double-check that three-pointer by Kinziger.
Might have been a toe on the line there. They're still looking at it. Both teams, though, shooting it well.
That's a three where I come from.
All right, I'll give it to him.
It's close, though. It's closer than we originally.
It was the shadow that was on the line.
I think so.
Actual foot. And I'm pretty sure that will not be overruled. It is not.
We got two free throws coming up for the Redbirds. As you look back on the season that was, we're going to talk some bracketology throughout the next couple of games. That was a three-pointer, by the way, so the score remains 11-8. Two free throws upcoming for the Redbirds again. Your overarching thoughts, the very bitter end and some of the controversy that was out there. North Carolina getting in, Xavier getting in, Texas also a part of the first four, and there were some teams that were left out, maybe.
I actually think the best basketball team that got left out was Boise State. They had some terrific wins, terrific veteran group. Leon Rice, an excellent coach. We won't see them until the new Crown event next week, so it's not like they've had a chance to prove anybody wrong or right in the NIT. I mean, look, I've been at this long enough to know that those teams at the end of the line for at-larges, they all have flawed resumes to a degree. Roy, and if they didn't, they wouldn't be on the bubble. They'd be safely in. So you have to accept that going into your deliberations. If I were voting the last two in, and that seemed to be around where the controversy came, I would have taken Boise State and Texas from both a basketball and a quality win standpoint. The committee took Texas and North Carolina. Actually thought the committee would take Xavier and Indiana. And I always have to distinguish what I think they're going to do from what I would do as a committee member. Bottom line, everybody's a win or two away. Win more games.
You got to win more.
And I would say in North Carolina's case, all due respect to the legacy and tradition of the Tar Heels, in their case, win a lot more games. A lot more games. If it was North Texas, North Florida, North Manitoba, 1-12 in Quad 1, we would never have had the conversation.
A lot of folks would agree. Carolina, an impressive win against San Diego State in the first four, and then not as much against the SEC's Ole Miss. Here's a 1-3-1 zone. That last foul called on Ty Pence. And a turnover as Incarnate Word has been active with the hands, and that's been a consistent story so far in Daytona.
They've also been quicker getting up and down the floor. This is the first real fast break we've had for Illinois State, and in part because UIW is shooting a good enough percentage to keep them from running.
Off the dump off. Nearly another turnover, and in fact it is. Let's see a scrum, and the arrow is going to favor the Cardinals.
Redbirds not doing a great job early on here of valuing the basketball, and it's cost them the early lead.
Well, Pike has been extremely effective and disruptive on both ends. He's gotten a couple of quality looks. The 1-12 mark in Quad 1 was what everybody was talking about. It's fun to be able to have you tonight in these two games, these two shows, to talk for more than 30 seconds about it, which is generally the only time you're allotted late in March.
And most people would view that as a bonus, that it's limited to 30 seconds. I understand that.
6 minutes in, Pike back to work. Size advantage, he'll flip it inside, the layup is good. And sneaking in is Heyman. 15-10.
Pretty good assist rate for Pike playing as a forward, and you saw his playmaking ability there.
Kinziger, step back, air ball.
Redbirds are taking, from my seat, too many highly contested shots, and it's making them too inefficient at the offensive end, and that is not their game.
It's 3 for 7 shooting for Illinois State. Garnet Word at 5 for 10. 6.5 minutes in. Heyman gets it back off the pump fake and a foul, and an easy whistle. Landon Wolf came crashing down.
You see one of these teams at UIW thus far effective at getting uncontested shots at the rim. At the other end, other than a couple of buckets from Chase Walker, the Redbirds struggling at the rim.
Heyman, an 85% free throw shooter, rims that first attempt out.
And Roy, in your bracket comments,
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to pick on North Carolina here, low-hanging fruit, and they're North Carolina, right? And they did play the second best overall schedule in the country after Auburn. But as an example, Auburn had 16 quad one wins. North Carolina had won by a bucket in December over UCLA. It's not only is it not apples and apples, it's not close.
Back to the 1-3-1 zone. Illinois State trying to attack inside out. Kensinger off the mark from downtown. The rebound cleared by Bailey. Davion Bailey, 126 made threes this year. Stepped out of bounds and a turnover. Isn't that a lot for some reason on that edge?
Yep. And, you know, it's the same distance down that line at all levels, but you seem to see it more in Division I men's college basketball. I really don't know why. It happens about once a half. And the line hasn't moved.
It has not moved. Saw Shane Hireman there, the head coach at Incarnate Word. He was part of the very first CBI championship team, Tulsa, 2008. A triple from the corner, and it drops Malachi Poindexter. 16-13.
Nice spark off the bench for the Redbirds, and they need it.
38% three-point shooter.
2 years at the University of Virginia for Poindexter.
In and out with a mid-range. Who wants it? And on the deck.
Oops.
Finally a foul.
Or a travel.
That is a foul. It's going to go on Williams.
Ty Pence doing the dirty work down on the floor.
One thing about this tournament, the teams that have won the CBI, that have made runs in this tournament from its genesis, that Tulsa team in 2008, Coach Hireman was a part of. The next year, even in this new era we are in, there appears to be dividends for these programs. And time after time, a run this March in the CBI equates to a longer run and perhaps a bigger tournament in the years to come. The putback is up and in by Pence.
That's certainly Illinois State's philosophy coming into this. Coaching staff telling us before the game, hey, we see no downside to continuing to play, especially our young guys, to get this experience. And they start, as we mentioned, a couple of key sophomores, plus Pence, often coming off the bench. And he wants them ready to play at a higher level as soon as next year gets here.
Anderson, the strong finish, right at the rack. And awaiting the under-12 media timeout.
And the all-time example had to be VCU going to the Final Four the year after winning the CBI.
And that went the first four to the Final Four with then head coach Shaka Smart. Poindexter outside, and the three-pointer splashes in for Caden Bozer. Just like that, Joseph, we are tied at 18.
Huge offensive contributions from the three-point line now off the bench for Illinois State. So credit Ryan Peaton for knowing his personnel and what his guys needed in terms of a fivesome against this UIW aggressive handsy defense.
Frisco, Texas. And a big-time triple to tie this game up at 18 in our first CBI semifinal of the day. Here inside of Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, Florida. Tied at 18. Illinois State and Incarnate Word, the bracketologist himself. He is in the building, folks. Joe Lenardi, I'm Roy Philpott. All right, so fun start. Great to see you.
You know why I like doing this event so much, Roy? You're such a stand-up guy.
He's got more jokes as well, people. I like doing it because we're kind of the same height, and that makes me feel good, buddy.
I like doing it because it's good to leave the bunker in the spring.
Yes, the time is now for Joe Lenardi to be released to the masses.
And to our late great friend Bill Walton, who said, I live in a cave, that's only part of the year. But I do miss him. Those were some great exchanges over the years.
Bill Walton mentioned my name on air one time, and it is something that resonates still to this day.
Oh, he's mentioned my name a number of times, and very rarely was it positive. He's still somewhere lobbying for more Pac-12 teams in the bracket.
The Conference of Champions, which has morphed into not really sure what. Off the front of the rim, fighting is Heyman. Keep the possession alive for Incarnate Word. Off another turnover by Illinois State. Jalen Anderson off the backboard, no, and a foul is going to go against Incarnate Word's Jaden Williams again, his second.
Case Walker, not surprisingly, in the top 10 in the country at drawing fouls per 40 minutes. Usually it's at the offensive end of the floor in post-up positions. That time, a floorboard causes Incarnate Word to foul, and I guess they're checking for extra contact.
If there's anything
determine who the foul is on. It looked like a basketball play to me, and we'll get word here. Looking for a hook and hold, we're told. Yeah, I can see that. And it takes a lot of hooking to hold Chase Walker.
You see him slung down. Chase Walker, 6'9", 270. And as Williams and Walker became intertangled, now the hook and hold, talking about elevated foul.
Williams part of kind of a center by committee, if you will, for the Cardinals. He and Marcus Glover, freshman and sophomore respectively, adding up to play 36 minutes a game in the 5 spot. And I'll say, for either of them going against Walker, that's pretty heavy duty defensive work. Officials confer at midcourt. Had a good crew tonight.
Veteran crew, Mike Nardone, Mike Evans, Joey Switzer.
It is a hook and hold, automatic F1, flagrant 1, so free throws coming for the Redbirds, and then they'll get possession again, and I think they got it right.
Unlike the selection committee on selection Sunday.
Now you're baiting me. I can respect that reasonable people can disagree about every team in the field except North Carolina.
Walker to the line after the hook and hold on Jaden Williams.
Walker, one of those guys who shoots it from a little off center, kind of like my putting.
You get time now to work on the short game.
I'm going to work on the short game.
Maybe even while you're here in Daytona.
Thursday in Vero Beach, Mike.
That sounds quite nice.
Maybe Friday.
We'll get the roll in the second. Walker now 2 of 4 at the stripe, and Illinois State with possession after the hook and hold, and the Redbirds grabbing the lead. That is their first advantage of this first semifinal. Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott, glad you could join us. Second semifinal later tonight. Cleveland State have the mat. Florida Gulf Coast, the ASUN. Think back to Dunk City a little over a decade ago. Andy Enfield, the head coach at Florida Gulf Coast, under the Sweet 16 Pence. In and out.
Those games were in Philly, and they were a hoot.
It was something special.
Down and went to the Sweet 16, the first 15 to do so.
Heyman off the bounce and was bumped on the release.
A couple years ago, we had St. Peter's doing one better, and 15 went to the Elite Eight.
Poindexter picks up the foul. St. Peter's beat Kentucky. There was a run of years for.
And Zach Eaton.
That's correct. I was going to say for the Cats that under John Calipari, a couple of first-round exits. Speaking of the NCAA tournament, don't forget our women's Sweet 16 matchups for Friday on ESPN, also in the app. North Carolina and Duke start the day at 2:30 Eastern. Then Maryland takes on #1 seed South Carolina, LSU, NC State, and Ole Miss and #1 seed UCLA. All headed your way on Friday. 2-2 for Heyman.
And Roy, for the men's fans out there, I would say start your day at 2:30 with the women's Sweet 16 and take it all the way up to the late games and, show a little love to both sides of March Madness.
There's been some great basketball on both fronts. Look at the hustle of both of these teams. And a timeout was called. Incarnate Word with the timeout.
You know what that means, Roy? It's the only team in any tournament that knows it's going to sing it.
Where the Final Four is located this year. Pike off the mark. And Illinois State with a rebound coming the other way. How's your bracket looking, by the way?
Not good. Not good, but sitting down at the end of the Illinois State bench is the coach's young son, Maddox, who says he's in the 99th percentile. And I was just starting to like him.
Walker picks up the offensive foul. And the Redbirds give it back to the Cardinals.
I'm finally ahead of the Cocker Spaniel in the house, though.
Congratulations.
I don't know if you saw that graphic midday Sunday. Every team with a dog nickname had been eliminated, and that's who Sam picked.
Smart.
Not good for Huskies and the like. And there were a ton of Bulldogs, too, this year, and they're all out.
Anderson. Just the chippy. He's gotten to the rack a couple of times so far. Kinzinger open for three.
That's his spot. Made one earlier. Couldn't find the range that time.
Mike, he's going to go straight to the rim. He does again. Off the mark. And a foul.
Over the back. And UIW just faster defense to offense. Wow. They called it on Pike.
And now Illinois State. Joe's going to be in the bonus here. Over 8 minutes remaining in the half. Pike picks up the person. Physical game. So
talked about how Walker, in terms of 40-minute rates, one of the highest in the country at drawing fouls. And he's done a nice job to improve his free throw shooting, now up over 70%.
6 points so far for 35.
He's got a power conference body, no question.
He does. Now 2 of 5 at the line, and the Redbirds giving away points there. And a foul will be called on Poindexter. That's his second.
Roy, all your time in the SEC, anybody ever say that about you?
A
power conference body?
Not once.
Not once.
But I saw a lot of those on the floor this year.
How could you miss them?
Every game.
The 14th guy on the 14th team. We were on it early, though. You could tell late November into December the way the metrics were lining up. And then when the SEC went 14-2 in the ACC Challenge. And that was more of a compliment to the SEC than it was an indictment of the ACC, in my opinion. The SEC was just that good.
In and out for Bailey, and Pike is going to be fouled this time. And that brings us to the under 8 media timeouts. Cardinal, we're at a 1-point lead. Free throws coming for the Cardinals after this.
think you're too.
Point play late that helped lift Seattle to that championship. And before that, it was Charlotte. Then head coach Ron Sanchez, UNCW, Pepperdine, and Fort COVID, South Florida. That came when the CBI was part of the best of three in that championship series.
Well, we almost had best of three in the UNCW year. There was double overtime in the final and I think single overtime in the semis.
Very good memory on your part. Here's Pike at the stripe. 10.5 points, 5 rebounds. Front end of the 1-and-1 is pure. Free throws a difference so far. 8 of 9 now for Incarnate Word and 4 of 7 for the Redbirds.
You get a look at that trophy there back in the office.
It's nice.
Pretty sharp.
It is sharp.
It's actually the second best trophy I've been next to this season.
What was the first?
The Lombardi trophy.
How about that?
Made an appearance at a game I was calling back in February.
Did you get a chance to hold it, to touch it?
I did touch it.
Great backdoor cut. And the layup no good for Davis. I've seen a couple of missed layups for both sides.
As a Philly sports fan, I don't want to say the Super Bowl was the best 4 hours of my life, but it was pretty close.
Gotta be. An effort for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles this year. Open three near the top of the key off the front rim and a foul. It's going to be called on Davis. So Jordan Davis boxed out Pike out of bounds.
Now I know we've got the attention of our Kansas City-based crew. Let's just remember, I think it was 40-6 at one point, was it not?
Mahomes was off kilter.
We're about to get taken off the air. Yeah, he did not look like the Patrick Mahomes of his prior 7 seasons, that's for sure.
Mike Rattles
might have had
first.
something to do with that.
No, they were very good in that front 7. Elite. Had been for quite some time last year in the NFL. Chase Walker going to check back in with the 2 fouls.
We don't get a lot of championships in Philly, Roy, so forgive us for gloating on those rare times that they occur.
There was no process associated with the Eagles' ascension, was there?
I don't think so.
No.
Just astute roster building.
2 of 2 for Pike. 8 points on the board for Jordan Pike.
And an all-SEC defense, I might add.
A lot of Georgia defenders, if memory serves me correctly.
And a lot of Alabama guys on offense, at least half of Jalen Hurts' career.
Cardinals have picked up their defensive tenacity. And banging down low, Walker's going to pick up the foul on Heyman.
Not a lot there.
Felt like that was getting ready to become more physical than what it actually was.
It was more like calling the idea of a foul or anticipating a foul. No foul there. No foul.
Heyman wondering what happened.
I'm not seeing it.
Walker now 2 of 6 at the stripe.
Although in fairness to the officials, like sometimes in guarding a guy like Walker, you can bump him and he won't move because he's just so big. This time, he gets hit in the chest and draws a charge. Great positioning by the big man.
First foul on Mintas Marcus.
Hasn't looked like he's had a stamina or a fouling problem to me tonight. Looks to me like a guy I'd want on my team anytime.
Perhaps a lot of other teams would be interested in having him on their team as well.
Just haven't gotten it done tonight from the foul line. They're trying to get it to him, but now they make them catch it 10, 12 feet from the bucket.
Swatted from behind by Heyman, 12 to shoot. Now the help side defense was there.
That's a clean block and a good one. Heyman elevating. Got the Incarnate Word bench. Awfully excited.
Walker gets it back, lays it in. Lead back to 2.
Boy, and he took out Davion Bailey in the process. Wrong spot, wrong time for the slender Bailey.
Walker has 8. Jalen Anderson will look back towards the Cardinals bench for the play call. They'll run their motion set. Trying to spot Bailey open for a 3. That's his specialty. They'll post up and bury the mid-range on the fadeaway. Tough shot taker, tough shot maker. Graduate student from Indianapolis, he's got 5. Kinzinger the other way. To the corner. Walker on the offensive glass. Kinzinger off the fake. And the floater for Banks. Dalton Banks connects.
I know the analytics say don't pass up the 3 to take the mid-range too. I just think that's good basketball.
That extra pass, right?
Well, even the extra dribble to take an 8-footer at a much higher percentage.
Heyman from the corner with the triple, and with 5 to go in the half, the lead is back to 5 for the Cardinals.
Heating up in Daytona.
Kinzinger picked up by Bailey. That's been a battle so far tonight. Walker, big man move and a bounce pass out of bounds. They'll try to get too cute with it. And another turnover.
And I've been impressed by the Cardinals in their man-to-man defense. I know they're known as a bit of a gambling team, going for steals, trying to force turnovers, but they're not getting out of position. And that's made it very difficult for the Redbirds, especially in the lane and closer.
7 turnovers, Illinois State. The Missouri Valley finished in 5th place, lost in the quarterfinals of the tournament. Williams back on the floor with the 2 fouls. Tries to feed the post inside, and a turnover. Heyman thought he was going to be able to haul it in cleanly, and he could not. Landon Wolf right over the top.
What we really haven't seen any signs of, I guess we wouldn't until later in the game. UIW's played 2 games in 2 days to get this far. Illinois State only played 1, and then they had a day off. You'd think that some of these issues that not getting back quick enough would be more affecting the Cardinals, but not so.
And that's been the case so far. Walker powers his way inside. It's been hard to stop down low in that low block area.
Well, you'd think you'd want to throw it to him every time, wouldn't you?
I would. What would you do?
I mean, he's just a walking basket.
That's a good thing in basketball, right?
I think.
Walking bucket, little contact in the paint, and Pence will clear. Banks a full head of steam, and the under 4 media timeout. Illinois State basketball when we return in a fast start for Chase Walker.
And how do you stop a guy who can do this? The defense is good, the positioning is good, he's just bigger, stronger, and on that play, better.
Shane Hireman, part of that Tulsa roster, and saw the floor the very next season, and he knows the importance of a tournament like this for any team to get the hardware. It is a very big deal in the following seasons, Joe.
And I always laugh this time of the year, Roy, when I'll hear fans or commentators, myself included, say, oh, well, they don't need to play. They're tired. They've been at it, nonstop. Well, you know what these guys do the day after the season's over and they get back home? They go play pickup in the gym. So how tired are they?
They're right back at it.
They're basketball players. That's what they do.
Working on the skills, getting up threes. Working on the vertical. Heyman shows you the vertical there with the mid-range. He thought he was fouled. Lead back to 3.
Nice game for Heyman. He's 3 of 4 from the floor, 5 of 6 from the line.
Got 12 points.
And one of 4 double-figure guys in the UIW lineup.
Corner 3, no, and off the mark was Wolf. And Wolf, a 36% three-point shooter. Under 3 to go in the half here in the first. Purple College Basketball Invitational semifinal. Game 2 later tonight, Florida Gulf Coast And off the spin, a foul's going to be called. Pike hit the floor pretty hard and takes a moment to try to collect himself.
That's really the difference in the game, is Incarnate Word's ability to get to the free throw line. They've taken 12 foul shots to just 8 for Illinois State, and they've gotten 10 of their 30 points at the line.
Here's Jordan Pike, a North Carolina native. Incarnate Word played in Durham against Duke and Cooper Flagg back in early December. And
How'd that go?
Well,
you had a good seat.
I had a great seat in the Crow's Nest at Cameron. And Pike was excited to come back to his home state from San Antonio.
And then the game started.
They played good in the first half. I will tell you that. Right up the road in Greensboro. Drains the first. Lead back to 4. Wednesday's ESPN NBA doubleheader. Luke and LeBron, the Lakers, playing the second of 4-game road trip against the Pacers at 7:30. Then Jason Tatum, the Celtics, middle of their longest road trip of the season, out west in the desert against the Suns. NBA Countdown begins our coverage at 7 Eastern. Wednesday, 2 of 2 for Pike.
I got one for you. You saw Duke early on. Obviously, they're even better now. And they're playing Arizona in Newark on Thursday night, Sweet 16. Arizona will happily play you in a 90, 95, 100-point game. Against Duke, they're going to get their wish.
You think Duke's going to run with them?
I think that game, if they want to play a game in the high 90s,
they'll do it.
They'll do it, and they'll lose. Because they won't get 100 against Duke. But they can give up 100.
Caleb Love was awfully impressive in their win against Oregon. So many big shots late. Pence puts it up and in. Illinois State love to try to wear down Incarnate Word in this second half. But the Cardinals have been a more impressive team to start. Heyman with 12, Pike with 11, and Pike again attacks the rim, and this time rejected by Walker.
What they've had most of all is more balance offensively. Whereas other than a couple threes off the bench from Poindexter and Bozer, it's been Chase Walker or missed foul shots for the most part from the Redbirds.
Jalen Anderson has it. Only 5 to shoot. Anderson, the spinner. The finish.
How many tough shots in the lane have they?
Incarnate Word only 10 of 26 shooting. It feels like it's a higher percentage.
Very much so. It started very high. Ooh, that looked like a foul against Wolf.
Pence has it. He'll split the double team. And throw it up short. Walker, Poindexter, Pence from 16.
A triple team in the low post, wide open mid-range jumper. You got to knock that down. Help your big man.
34 to 29. Approaching a minute to play in the half, in which Incarnate Word has led just about from start to finish. So 1-point advantage at 19 to 18 for Illinois State briefly around the 10-minute mark. Now it's Anderson. Pence the rebound. Kinzinger will pull it out. Now attack. And Pence is short. Walker with the tip in.
Important swing there. Cardinals had an open 3 to go up 8. Instead, potentially a 3-point game, a 1-possession game heading to halftime. The Redbirds can get one more stop.
And about a 2-second differential between game and shot clock. Entertaining start here in Daytona Beach inside the Ocean Center. Davion Bailey starts, stops, lost it. Kinzinger the other way. And off the glass, too strong. A 3-point advantage for Incarnate Word at the break.
Almost wonder if Kinzinger would have been better off pulling up there and then going for the follow if he missed it. Either way, Illinois State has to be pretty happy if they're getting outplayed for the bulk of the half to only be down one possession.
Ballot analysis by America's favorite bracketologist, Joe Lenardi. Halftime report coming up next. Underway halftime continues, and so glad you could join us. Of course, everybody's talking about the NCAA tournament, the big dance, and where are the Cinderellas with Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott, America's favorite bracketologist, talks about everything with the brackets this time of year. Your thoughts on all of that and kind of how it unfolded with this year's field of 68 and the fact that here the Sweet 16, where is Cinderella? Where is the glass slipper, my friend?
And in fairness, Roy, I don't think it's the end of the world that we have all power conferences and limited double-digit seeds still playing. But I do think we need to be mindful about the character of the tournament going forward and the fact that it is a national event. When three conferences get almost 30 of the 37 at-large bids, it becomes less of a national event. And I'm still sure that the N in NCAA stands for national. So you take a look at some of the snubs this year and other years, particularly from the mid-major level, and you say, well, where is Cinderella? They have to get into the dance first. And in recent years, there's been a trend more heavily weighted toward the power conferences. Some of that is metrics. Some of that is basketball, in fairness, because the haves and the have-nots are being separated by the landscape of the sport. But you can't tell me that some of these types of schools wouldn't have made a dent in their respective years, or that comparables to them would this year. Illinois State was a huge snub back in 2017. They were 17-1, co-champions of the Missouri Valley with a Wichita State team that went to the Final Four. And that's just one example here. A year before that, St. Bonaventure, back in the RPI days, had the best RPI ever omitted from the tournament. So I just think we've lost the plot a bit in putting in quite as many of these power conference schools who are so much under 500 in their own leagues. I know that's not a consideration for the committee, but we've lost the plot when winning doesn't matter as much as it used to.
There were some brands on that list as well, like some mid-major brands that we believe could have made deep runs, and we feel like that was the case a little bit this year. Now, the SEC was dominant. We know that with the 14 teams that smashed the old record in terms of one league getting that many teams into the field of 68. But, man, to not have those mid-majors make those runs and to only have one double-digit seed reach the Sweet 16 in Arkansas, there is a bit of a void.
Sure, and look, we only have one halftime here, but the seeding has changed as well. You know, VCU is a 25 to 30 game winner the last 2 or 3 years, and they're getting 11s and 12s. You know, there was a time when Atlantic 10 teams, heck, the St. Joe's Hawks were a 1 seed at one time. Temple was a 1 seed. UMass was a 1 seed. So I just think the mechanics of bracketing and seeding and the way we evaluate teams doesn't need a major overhaul, but it just needs a little bit of a reality check. And look, the SEC was the best conference we've ever seen in the regular season, and they're proving it now in the postseason. But the world does not stop spinning on its axis if only 12 or 13 of them make it instead of 14. I mean, 6 and 12 in your league? Why have a league?
Mic drop from America's favorite bracketologist, Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott. Got the second half here at the Ocean Center coming up at the College Basketball Invitational. Continue. Purple College Basketball Invitational. First semifinal, the second one coming up later tonight. Joe Lenardi, I am Roy Philpott. It's been a beautiful spring-like afternoon into the evening now in Daytona and Florida Gulf Coast, representing the A-Sun, Cleveland State, and the MAC getting set to do a little business this evening in this second semifinal, Joe.
The numbers look comparable, but I'm here to tell you, Roy, that Florida Gulf Coast wins with offense, disciplined shot taking and shot making. Cleveland State wins at the defensive end of the floor, so it's a bit of a contrast in styles, and we'll see who is able to determine the type of game it is, and that should determine who plays here again tomorrow night in the title game.
Stars to watch in the nightcap. You got Johnson. You got Tevin Smith for Cleveland State. Vikings have been up and down at times this year. They can score. Joe mentioned the defense. And Johnson for FGCU, led by head coach Pat Chambers, has put together a nice run in this tournament.
And we're also keeping an eye for Florida Gulf Coast on senior big man Keyshawn Kelman. Turned an ankle early in the win over Army in the quarterfinals yesterday. They were hoping the late start tonight would give him enough recovery time. Certainly it's a heavier lift for the Eagles without his 14 points and 8 rebounds per game.
It's the Vikings lead for Incarnate Word. They were the more aggressive team in our first 20 minutes against Illinois State. That link perhaps bothering the Redbirds up to this point as we take a look at our AARP first half stats. And Joe Lenardi, what stands out to you here?
Yeah, I agree. I thought the length defensively of Incarnate Word was significant, particularly against the sophomore point guard of the Redbirds, Johnny Kinzinger. He seemed to struggle to have easy passing lanes, and typically they had to enter the ball to the post to their big guy Chase Walker from the wings and not from the high post. I thought that kind of bogged Illinois State down and gave them a lesser class of shot for the most part in that first half.
Also at the charity stripe, UIW 12 of 14, Illinois State 4 of 8.
And that's an 8-point difference. And look how hard Illinois State had to work just to get this to be a one-possession game at the half.
Kinzinger will get set to inbounds, and Illinois State will have possession first. Chase Walker, a big story, 12 first-half points, 4 rebounds, and a block and a steal as well.
But he was the only guy close to double figures for Illinois State. The Cardinals had a couple guys, Heyman and Pike, and they haven't really gotten their big gunner, Davion Bailey, on track yet. He had just 2 field goals and 1 3, and it was to open the game.
Walker gets his own miss. We did suggest earlier he had 2 personals. They did change one of those calls. Walker with 1 foul in the first 20, so that is of note. And Walker, a strong finish.
Impressive basketball IQ there. His first crack at it, he actually threw the ball out, reposted, and then got back in a position where he wasn't susceptible to a 3-second call.
Lead down to 1. Davion Bailey, her 26 threes this season, fouled on that attempt by Kinzinger. And 3 free throws coming for number 5 for Incarnate Word, Davion Bailey.
I think when Kinzinger puts his head on the pillow tonight, he's going to be dreaming about Davion Bailey, and it's not going to be pleasant. He's been a handful at both ends for the young point guard.
Well, that was a fingertip on the elbow, but it counts, and any kind of contact there is going to draw the whistle. Bailey at the line will shoot 3, 74% this season. Lead back. A 2-point advantage for the 19-win Cardinals out of the Southland Conference.
Just because I study numbers all season long, something that caught me with Bailey, 37% from 3, which is very good. 41% on 2s. And you would think, does he not get any layups? Is he taking guarded almost 3s? Like, what is the genesis of those numbers? And I can't tell you. The 1-2 he took tonight that was tough and contested, the short corner left baseline, he made it.
Yeah, with Kinzinger all over him. Very tough shot that he buried from about 12 feet. That was at a critical stretch in that first half. Here's Banks. Dalton Banks baseline against Bailey. Will try to clear out some real estate. Back to Walker. Chase Walker unloads another layup. He's got 16.
Ooh, big boy bucket right there. Switched hands, went under the backboard, and used his big body to get himself the space to put it up off the glass.
Runner, silky smooth for Jalen Anderson. Joe, at any point, does offense not go through Chase Walker for Illinois State?
Not if I'm coaching.
Walker with position, inside out, great cut by Pence, and the reverse, there was a foul.
What impresses me about Walker, his footwork for a guy who, is pretty big and was bigger, doesn't seem to be off balance, doesn't seem to get ahead of himself. And you see with young big men especially, they play too fast when they don't have to. And he has an innate sense of good timing.
Ty Pence with one more free throw coming. Incarnate Word has held Illinois State at arm's length better part of this first semifinal matchup. Don't forget Florida Gulf Coast, Cleveland State, the nightcap to determine who's going to face winner of this game in the championship tomorrow. And that game will tip at 5 o'clock Eastern over on ESPN2. Ryan Peden trying to implore his team and his bench to get in this game.
Well, from a pace standpoint, Illinois State has gotten what it wants for the most part. I think they just need a second scorer to emerge.
It's been number 11, Johnny Kinziger.
It's not going to be him being guarded by Bailey, I don't think.
Bailey's locked him down. Here's Walker. We'll watch him work again and a chance for three.
Or maybe they'll just throw it to that guy every time.
18 on the board for number 35.
I mean, we talked about it. Knows how to use his bulk, but is athletic enough to take that step back into shooting position at the exact moment where he can take advantage.
He's got 18, the rest of his team with 21 in total. And now just the second lead of this game for the Redbirds. Last one came when it was 19-18. Heyman, the runner, floats it up and in.
Tough shots at the rim again for Incarnate Word, as we saw in the first half. Changed defensive look here for Incarnate Word. Looks like a 1-3-1. Let's see if Illinois State can attack one of the deep corners.
So they get a lot of hands on the basketball. They switch those defenses. Walker, not this time. And Bailey tumbles out of bounds, and he was tapped. And a foul's going to be called, and that's going on Chase Walker.
Pulled back to avoid fouling, and then at the last moment put his arms forward. Previous bucket by Heyman. Again, a runner, contested. Finds the window, and the deuce.
41-40. This game has developed a nice little flow and rhythm to begin our second half. Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott, baseline jumper, Heyman, he's short.
Don't tell me either of these teams isn't playing hard.
Well, they both wanted to be here. You can feel that courtside. This young man did. Walker. Glover did all that he could to stand his ground. That paid dividends. Bailey the other way. But that finished with a bounce.
But whenever it looks like Illinois State is ready to impose its will through Walker, they commit a foul or miss a shot in close, and now they've not been able to solve this 1-3-1 trap.
Kinziger will get it back over to Banks. Splits the double team. And free throws coming for the Redbirds. Davion Bailey on a bit of a heater now in double figures. Joe with 10.
And he's not doing it from the three-point line. He's doing it by attacking the basket.
UNC South Carolina and Maryland. LSU NC State, the 3 versus the 2 out in Spokane, along with UCLA and Ole Miss. And Coach Yo against Lauren Betts, 10 o'clock Eastern Friday on ESPN. Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott back here in Daytona Beach. I just came from Baton Rouge. That LSU team, Kim Mulkey, the Hall of Famer, 9-time National Coach of the Year, now healthy for the first time in a long time. Joe, Flau'jae Johnson, Anissa Morrow. That is a team to watch out west to see if they can get back east to Tampa in the Final Four.
Yeah, and I was watching your game there last night, partner, to see if you were in true form. And second half, LSU looked pretty unstoppable.
It was 50-49 at halftime, which is an incredible pace in college basketball, men or women. And then LSU happened in the third quarter.
Yeah.
They outscored FSU 31-6.
It's almost like they have a, championship pedigree.
Well, they won it 2 years ago, right? Kim Mulkey's won it, I believe, 4 times.
Just ask her. I'm sure she'll tell you.
Great time getting to know her a little bit better this past weekend. We were in Baton Rouge for about 5 days. Foul inside, and that's an offensive foul. Go against the Cardinals.
Glover, I think.
Well, it's Pike. So he picks up his third. Glover does have 2. That would have been his third. And Illinois State will get it back, trailing by a point.
They have a good replacement for Glover. They don't have a good replacement for Pike.
Kinziger. Silky smooth. That gives the Redbirds the advantage.
It missed 3 of 4. The balance of the game before that, maybe that gets him and the Redbirds going a little bit.
Glover trapped top of the key and finally spots Anderson. Jalen Anderson's had his way. Free path to the rim. More times than not. Case in point. There it is again.
The Incarnate Word guards have just been able to take advantage of their defenders off the dribble in basic isolation one-on-one play.
Show 4 Cardinals now in double figures, including Anderson with 10 points.
That's what they average. They have that kind of balance, but we've still got almost 15 minutes to go. They can't get undouble figures.
Pencil feed the big fella. Time for Chase Walker to go back to work. Inside out to Davis. And Glover with a nice box out.
Basic 2-man game. The double came. He kicked it out. Couldn't make the shot.
Runner no. And a blocking foul called. That's going to put Dylan Heyman at the stripe.
Zamir, was that another late whistle?
It was late.
It was a sliver late.
A skosh. Kinziger moments ago with a mid-range. He's got 5 points tonight. And then the blocking foul right after the reverse by Anderson.
And a hard take by Heyman at the other end to get to the line. Where at least thus far, Cardinals have had a real advantage.
Heyman with 14. He'll get one more free throw.
Announcer jinx.
I do believe that that's a real thing.
Oh, I do too.
And there are many announcers that would totally dispute that, including some of the bigger names out there. I would not. In fact, I single-handedly take credit for ending multiple field goals in football, consecutive, that kind of streak going, and or free throws in college basketball. If there's a 30-plus game or 30-plus free throw streak on the line, you want that thing to end, just tell me. I'll make it happen. Inside out. Mid-range again off glass, and an easy banker to Kinziger.
Roy, I got to tell you, I love doing basketball with you, but you're great at football.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, because I'm watching that as a fan.
You're not as invested maybe in football? Or?
Well, I'm just watching for entertainment usually.
Off the right side of the rim, here comes Illinois State. We're tied at 46.
I mean, when they put 64 teams in the postseason, I'll pay closer attention.
It's a lot of postseason football if we got there one day.
No, it's too.
There's some that would enjoy that. How many would the SEC get in football, you think?
How many do they have?
A bunch.
They get former SEC teams in.
Well, that's a brain bender. Let me think about that.
There's got to be some.
Deep three for Bailey. In his wheelhouse, not this time. And the box out by Bozer. Get alumni teams into the college football tournament. They're going to call interference. No bucket. We remain tied.
Brian Peaton asking if they would look at it. I don't think he's going to win that one.
I do have some football coming up this spring. UFL.
You are the man.
Cardinals going to call a timeout, talk it over. They had a 3-point lead at halftime. That is whittled down to a tie game, 7 minutes in, and Ryan Peden asking for an explanation. That last basket interference. Timeout on the floor as we step aside in Daytona. Invitational semifinal number 1 in Daytona Beach. The sun has set on this spring-like afternoon, now evening, with Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott. Don't forget, semifinal number 2. Florida Gulf Coast. Yeah, remember Dunk City back in the day against Cleveland State, A-Sun, and the MAC in the championship match. The winners of this game here in front of us, and then the nightcap between the Vikings and the Eagles, Joe.
Sounds like an NFC championship preview for a future season.
The Vikings have a quarterback next year?
I don't think so.
Sam Darnold went out west, and maybe it's J.J. McCarthy time. There was a Michigan-Ohio State influence in this arena we may be able to show you later, but we'll see what happens.
Move back across the way.
Maybe documenting the number of days since one team beat the other on the gridiron. A couple of football references to start our second half here.
I thought it was the number of days since North Carolina's last quad 1 win.
Jordan Pike, the runner, and
Just kidding, Bubba.
Back in front. Somebody get Bubba Cunningham, UNCAD on line 1. Corner 3 off the mark from Poindexter. Ripped away in the rebound by Heyman.
We've got Marcus Glover down.
Oh, and he's in pain.
Not holding an area. It's generally very comfortable.
Marcus Glover, the sophomore from Chicago. Early fouls tonight.
He's been a factor defensively against Chase Walker, one of the few guys who's able to match up close to Walker physically. And Walker's been a load for anybody who's tried to guard him.
Hey, Joe, not sure what happened. The officials are going to walk over and take a look, and Glover's going to be helped to his feet. A little bit of a limp. He's battling. It looks like Bozer there just took a shot.
And then tried to make it back up the court and was in too much discomfort.
And nothing needed to be addressed by this officiating crew. 2-point lead for the Cardinals. Got the Southland, the Missouri Valley going toe-to-toe tonight in this first semi.
And for all of UIW's good work tonight, they've never led by more than 6. The game's been played in a 7-point window and is very much in doubt here with 12 and a half minutes to go. You just have the sense that Illinois State has a gear that we haven't seen.
Certainly have the shooters to be able to reach that gear. It hadn't happened yet with Carnett Word finding ways to score, and this time it's Jalen Anderson. So Kinziger picks up his second. That's going to put Anderson at the line. 72% free throw shooter. Ball State transfer, second leading scorer. He poured in 22. That win against Jacksonville yesterday in the quarters. We look at Anderson, and you've talked about Bailey and Jordan Pike, and Joe, their length, their physicality, a lot to deal with for this team out of the Southland.
I think at the end of the day, they've been quicker, at least in transition. And we talked about their half-court defense being really sound. Now here's a 1-2-2 trap. We'll see if the Redbirds can take advantage. Whoa.
Let's skip pass. Yeah. Bozer trying to skim it over towards Davis. And Illinois State fortunate to maintain possession. The under-12 of the Big Dance. Loyola beat Nevada, then Kansas State in the Elite Eight. Joined VCU as a former CBI champion, advancing to the Final Four.
And Loyola Chicago playing for a spot in the NIT Final Four later tonight.
That's correct. You take a look at the last 5 CBI champions. Seattle a year ago, Charlotte, UNCW, Pepperdine. South Florida, the Bulls, back in 2019. Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott here in Daytona Beach. Ryan Peden, the head coach, Illinois State, out of the Missouri Valley. And the Redbirds trailing by 4, but with possession against Incarnate Word out of the Southland Conference.
Had the good fortune to do a game at Loyola Chicago this year, Roy, and make my annual visit with Sister Jean and a possible 4-point play to tie this baby up. Out come Poindexter in the corner, set his sights, and drilled it.
Great play out of the timeout, and the foul by Pike. Just a bit too aggressive. Well, you see defenders foul three-point shooters, and you ask yourself the question,
why?
Why? Because rarely do you ever block a three-point shot. It just doesn't happen.
And the 4-point play goes for naught. I think I called Poindexter Malcolm. He's Malachi. Either way, it was a great shot.
Off the bounce, here's Anderson. 1-point game. We have been back and forth throughout this second half. Bailey stops and pops. All nets. And 2 players hit the deck.
Now we've got another Incarnate Word guy down, and it's Jaden Williams, who shares that center spot with Glover, who already went to the locker room.
Basket is going to count. Walker.
Tough 2 from Bailey, Mr. 3-point shooter.
And a tough foul, perhaps, with Williams hitting the floor.
So when the guy who gets hurt commits the foul.
Joe, there was an elbow there to Jordan Davis when Williams kind of flung backwards, and without knowing there was another player there, Davis absorbed that hit, the back of the elbow from Jaden Williams.
Now they're conferring before they go to the monitor on what they want to review. Gosh, some of these reviews, though, in the postseason have been lengthy.
Something has to be done.
We're going to get a bit of an explanation here. You talk, sir, and I'll...
Well, there you see the replay where Davis falls backwards. And then in the same time, Chase Walker overcomes Jaden Williams. There's a lot to look at. The first elbow there with Davis going down, and then at that point in time, Williams had already been trending in that direction.
Well, what they're doing is trying to determine if the foul came before or after the shot.
And there was a foul called on Williams, by the way.
Yeah, the foul's going to stand. It's just a question of whether the bucket will count. If the foul came after the ball was released, the score will stay at 52-49. If not, we'll go back to 50-49. And you're right, Davis went flying. And poor Jaden Williams got...
Well, he was called for the foul, and it felt like Chase Walker assisted him in the shove down towards the deck.
Well, we got a little sandwich there. And I think when Chase Walker is the top piece of bread in the sandwich,
the bottom roll is going to be...
The cheese in the middle is going to be pretty flat.
It's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You got cheese, you got a roll, and we're going to get an explanation here. So the shot is confirmed. Common foul on Jaden Williams. So for Williams, that's his third. Pike now has 4 personals.
It does kind of beg the question, though, Roy. What is an uncommon?
Well, one that is unnecessary and flagrant in nature, I would argue. Very good question on your part, though. I like it when you ask me questions on occasion. That's kind of fun.
I would call it more, rare and unusual.
Right. It's fair. Just getting started in Daytona Beach, by the way. We've got the nightcap later. Cleveland State, Florida Gulf Coast. Second semifinal of the Purple College Basketball Invitation. Fun tournament, fun week for these guys down in sunny Florida, Sunshine State. Pence goes back to work, flips it up and in. I'm not sure he could see the rim.
Was trying to pass it to Walker and finally gave up and said, heck, I'll fling it up there and let Walker go get it that way, and somehow made the shot.
Hey, sometimes that's your best offense, right? You got a big man like Chase Walker running around. Backdoor cut. Cardinals by just a point. Anderson, no.
Redbird's beaten off the dribble again, but got away with it.
Chase Walker a touch, defended by Williams. Show the basketball.
Caught it a little further out than he would like.
Another rebound for the big man.
Doing his Moses Malone imitation out there. Miss badly, get his own rebound, keep the play alive.
Watch this by Pence, Joe.
Yeah, this is probably not the way they drew it up in the huddle, but there it is. And that's why March is great.
High degree of difficulty on a shot like that.
Yeah, you think it should be worth, like, I don't know, 2.2 points or 2.3?
Let's take a look at the NIT bracket during this Illinois State timeout. Redbird's going to talk things over. Bradley and Chattanooga currently over on ESPN2. And coming up tomorrow night.
I had it wrong. I thought Loyola was tonight.
They'll get Kent State.
And they get a home game after winning 2 out on the West Coast.
That's nice, right?
That means Sister Jean will indeed be in the house.
And that's also very nice.
Let me tell you, of all the things that have happened over all the years that people wouldn't believe about bracketology, probably the one I'm most proud of is getting emails from Sister Jean asking, what does Loyola need to get in?
That is awesome.
And as somebody who spent, the bulk of his life in Catholic school, like the best 37 years of my life, my reaction is to go, yes, sister, no, sister, and tell her whatever she wants to hear. Like, you do not mess with the bracket gods in March. You just don't.
What year did bracketology begin? Bailey fouled on the 3 again.
Oh, and Ryan Peaton pretty upset over that call. Storms out to center court, but I think it was a foul, and you'll see it. Bailey chucking it up, which he really hasn't done in a guarded situation, and Kinziger right in his grill. Maybe the contact occurred after the ball was released.
And he stepped on Bailey's foot as he came down, so not allowing him to be able to continue the process of following the shot and landing safely, perhaps.
So we finally worked the process into the broadcast. You've been at that all night.
First year bracketology? What year was that?
The first brackets went up on ESPN.com in February of 1995, so 30 years.
It's amazing.
TV started in 2002 with the dawn of ESPN News. And it stuck me on, and I guess I didn't screw up badly enough.
You've never left.
And here we are. I've spent 23 of the last 24 selection Sundays in Bristol, and the only miss was COVID.
Incredible run.
And who wouldn't want to be in Bristol on selection Sunday?
And it is chilly up there that time of year, but
usually golf weather. Another miss at the rim for Illinois State. If it's not Walker finishing, they just had a hard time. Except for that crazy flipping from Pence. This puts pressure on the Redbirds defense, where they've had a hard time getting consistent stops. They generally rebounded well enough. That's going to be a foul on Incarnate Word. Shane Hireman not happy, but that was a foul.
Kinziger.
It was a foul before it was a turnover.
First foul on Bailey. Kinziger fell down pretty hard right in front of Shane Hireman.
I've seen Marcus Glover come back to the bench. My word, already missing guys. They have TJ Ford's son, who was a real explosive player for them in the first half of the season. He's out.
We got to see him in Durham, that Duke game we just talked about, early December.
I mean,
Thinking to myself,
like
he does. He does. And then I saw TJ Ford Sr. in Austin, Texas just 2.5 weeks ago in their season finale against Oklahoma down at Moody Center. Heyman and Walker a rebound. Walker now with 7 boards tonight, along with 19 points. Aiming for 21. Won't get there this time. Cardinals still with a 2-point lead. Bailey. He's been aggressive in these moments. It's the smaller defender. Short this time.
Credit Kinzinger for sticking with that.
Get it the other direction, and he's going to be fouled by Bailey. That's his second.
And a 1-and-1.
That's going to put Kinzinger at the stripe.
90%.
All MVC, all Missouri Valley Conference. Second leading scorer. He is a shooter. By definition.
Only sophomore tandem in the country, Kinzinger and Walker, to be all-league selections.
And you would love to get that core back.
For sure.
Next year, right?
They claim that Walker's already committed through the Illinois State Collective. I think he would be the literally and figuratively big piece of their building program.
See what you did there. 5 ties, 6 lead changes, and we are knotted up again at 54. Just over 8 minutes remaining in our first semifinal, the Purple College Basketball Invitational. And off the steal, a technical foul's been called on Shane Hireman. Well, there was an earful being delivered to this veteran officiating crew as Illinois State came back the other direction. Joey Switzer.
And that's a young coach who's going to look back at the tape and regret taking a tee there and sending a 90% foul shooter to the line.
So it's automatic here, and that's basically going to give the Redbirds.
Well, they did already have the ball, so it's not like he gave up a possession. But he'd been riding the stripes pretty hard. Perhaps colorfully.
Maybe one way to describe it. And I told you, there's the jinx right there.
Yeah.
I basically guaranteed that was going to be 2 points, and you see what happened.
That was on you.
I apologize.
But I believe in the jinx.
To Redbird fans, and you're welcome to Cardinal fans watching.
Illinois State, for the 3rd time, has its largest lead, Roy. 1 point.
Here's Dalton Banks.
See if they can extend it. Nope, they turn it over and commit a foul.
That whole sequence, a microcosm of what this game has been.
Right, they make a push and then kind of beat themselves on a play.
Got 44 teams left playing college basketball, 2 in front of us right now. 69 was the final. Nate Altman, of course, still with the Ducks. His team went dancing this year.
Looks exactly the same.
He does.
Kerman looked very young.
It's funny how that works. We're tied here in Daytona Beach. First of 2 semifinals. Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott. It's been a fun game, an interesting game. A physical matchup between these two. Redbirds and the Cardinals. Getting along, if you will, and it's kind of been back and forth, but every run made by Illinois State has been answered, and usually then some, by Incarnate Word.
And they've done it by powering the ball to the basket off the dribble, using their length on the perimeter. They've not been firing away simply from deep, as we thought might be the case.
Do we want to see anything different for that young man, Chase Walker? Early production, big production. He's got 19 points and 7 rebounds. It feels like Illinois State maybe has gotten away from Walker a little bit in these last 5 or 6 minutes. Redbirds with that 1-point advantage until now, and then Jalen Anderson happens.
Anderson, senior. Bailey, senior. Heyman, senior.
Five Ties, 8 lead changes, the majority of those coming in our second half. Who wants it? Walker does against Williams. Watch Walker work.
Double team. Finally kicks it.
Pins from downtown.
It's the first kick out three I remember them hitting all night. Big spot.
5 of 17 from deep for the Redbirds, and now the lead at 2. That does represent their largest lead. Here goes Anderson again. Step back 16, and it drops. Tied at 58. Jalen Anderson with 16 on the board. Well, this game is starting to develop a very nice tempo. There's a steal ripped away by Williams. And the foul by Walker.
Did they call a foul? I don't think so. They did. The officials never went up because he was calling possession first, but instead a huge call in this game is that number 4
it is
on the big man.
Yeah, 35 has to take a seat.
It's probably until about the under 4. Unless things get multiple possessions negative.
Walker has been a mainstay for Illinois State this season. Williams a shade over 50% on the free throw line this year. Big one there. He'll get the bonus. Next foul by the Cardinals will put Illinois State in the double bonus the rest of the game. It's been a free throw shooting clinic of sorts thus far for the Cardinals. 21 of 25 as a team. Add one more to that tally. 60 to 58. We hope the second game is as good as the first. Pence trying to establish position. And a blocking foul be called on Anderson.
Double bonus. 2 free throws coming for Davis. 5th-year guy has played 150 college games. That would have been unthinkable before the extra year in the COVID pandemic.
Brother Johnny Davis says in the NBA, bloodlines tremendous in the Davis family, but it's Dalton Banks at the stripe. Davis the first to greet him. Banks nearly 4 assists per game. Just over 10 points. 5 on the board tonight. Short on the second attempt. And a foul inside, and that will go on Jordan Davis. So the 1-and-1 coming. Dylan Heyman, who is an outstanding free throw shooter. 6 of 8 tonight. Joe, you go to the free throw line 26 times already, and you're shooting 85%. That kind of clip, that's a pretty good night at the office, isn't it?
It sure is, especially in such a tight game. And I think back, even the technical foul that went against the Incarnate Word bench, Illinois State only got 1 point out of the technical and subsequent possession. That could have been a turning point. Instead, Illinois State now playing uphill again. It feels like they've been chasing the game the whole night.
Here's the steal. How about Jaden Williams? With a turnover starting to mount up. 10 on the board now for Illinois State. Bailey, back iron. Somehow saved by the Redbirds. Here's Poindexter. Malachi the lob. Pins the jam.
A decent contingent of Redbird fans, and they finally are on their feet.
Pence with 15.
They've been more nervous than excited most of the time.
It's had that kind of energy to it from a Redbirds perspective. You can feel that. See what happens down the stretch. 5.5 to go. Corner three, Marcus.
He knew it was short the whole way.
Chased it, tracked it, scored it.
Give him credit. Following the shot and following hard.
Intas Marcus. First points of the night.
Big spot for the Lithuanian.
Pence connected on the lob moments ago. Pinned at the backboard by Williams on the next possession.
Have to be thinking about Chase Walker if UIW scores and makes it a two-possession game.
Jalen Anderson off the high ball screen. Probing.
Tough shots as he made.
At that time, Joe. But it feels like many. 7 of 15, 16 points for Anderson. Pins. Check it, it's Bozer. And the
huge
reverse.
Bucket to get a contribution with Walker on the bench, and now maybe sit him a little bit longer until the under 4 if this game stays tied or within a possession.
Pence with that lob moments ago. It was
pretty good reach.
Brilliant. Bozer 3 the hard way. How big was that? Trailing by 3 and now tied at 64.
Walker had been making his way to the scorer's table to check in before that and one, and they yanked him back.
So Ryan Peden going to try to buy a couple of extra seconds.
Even a half a minute is a big deal here.
Walker with 19 points to 4 fouls. Marcus thought about instead, hands it off to Heyman, a path. Out of bounds, and he turns it over off the pump fake.
He's been so reliable on those drives, and they've all been pretty similar, left to right, and then right hand finishes off the window. But this time, it's Incarnate Word with the costly turnover.
Pence will walk the basketball up the floor. Incarnate Word, Anderson, and Marcus.
And he
slapped the hardwood that time.
Neither Kinzinger nor Walker, the star sophomores, are on the floor right now for Illinois State.
Pence in takeover mode. Missed the step back, Jay.
Pence, another sophomore that's part of this really impressive ISU nucleus.
20-win team, 10-10 in the Missouri Valley this year. 5th place finish. Ended up losing the quarters of the tournament. Anderson with a basketball on a string. Marcus, dribble drive, somehow banged into Pike, who lays it in. Pike with 13, lead at 2. And Bozer directing
a smaller lineup here defensively, but you can get away with that without Walker in the game.
Marcus will pick up Bozer. And a foul on the elbow on the dump down.
That'll be 2, even if it was non-shooting. He was more in the act of passing.
Drama in Daytona. The lead is 2 with just over 3 to go. And over Illinois State out of the Missouri Valley. Joe Lenardi, Roy Philpott here with you the rest of the way, including our second semifinal later tonight. Florida Gulf Coast and Cleveland State championship tomorrow at 5 Eastern on ESPN2, matching the winner of this game versus the winner of that. And Caden Bozer at the stripe to try to tie this one up.
By my count, this is the 7th CBI game that we've done together. Of the previous 6, 3 have gone overtime.
I'm noticing a trend.
Just saying.
Have we had a double overtime special?
Yes, we did. The championship game in 2022.
Only a true bracketologist, the founder of the entire enterprise, could remember such games.
I may have looked it up, too.
Okay.
My memory tends to fade.
You're a young 64, by the way.
Well, thank you.
A very young 64.
I appreciate that.
Bracketologists need love, too.
64 is a pretty big number in my life.
So is 68.
Yeah. Let's jump off that bridge when we get to it.
Don't jump. In and out and back in, and it drops for Heyman. The Cardinals.
Chase Walker back in the game after the under 4. Sets this high screen here. He's got to play unafraid at this point. I mean, they're trying to win the game with 2.5 minutes to go.
Better be careful in those screens 40 feet from the rim.
Hey, you don't, if you're going to foul out, it needs to be preventing a basket.
Big moment here, 5 to shoot. Walker's going to be fouled. Chase Walker fouled. The act of shooting. It's 2 shots the rest of the way for any infraction.
It's only 3 of 7 from the line tonight. We'll see if the status of knowing it's 2 shots instead of a 1-and-1 makes it a little easier.
Walker, a sophomore from Columbus, Ohio. Drains the first as we take a look at our Carvana game track tonight. A 1-point affair between Cardinals and the Redbirds. Walker now with 20. Anderson, 10 in the second half.
Look at those bench points for Illinois State.
You like that depth, don't you?
I think if we strapped Ryan Peden to a lie detector, he'd say, I would have liked more production from my starters.
Outside of Walker, who has really produced. Tied at 68.
Who's going to get the key stop and defensive rebound?
Anderson with the hand on the shoulder. Short with a mid-range. Walker. A jump ball is called, and it's going to stay with the Cardinals. Well, how about the effort that time by Jaden Williams?
He's given up about 50 pounds to Walker, but not only managed to create that tied ball, but he's had to play all the center minutes since the exit of Marcus Glover. It was about 11 or 12 minute mark.
Walker and Williams will meet right at that low block again. Brief conversation. It's veteran officiating crew. Bailey, free, and that shot was rejected. What a play on the move.
Hensinger.
We just talked about it.
Giving up a half a foot. Sky, that was a high arching 3.
Joe, we said it. You never see a 3-pointer block. That time we did.
Play of the game defensively for Illinois State.
Shot clock at 16 seconds. It was last touch by the Redbirds. Anderson will trigger. Heyman, strong finish against Davis.
So reliable.
And timeout call.
Backing down Banks and finishing again off the glass. What a night for Heyman. 21 points to equal Walker on 6 of 12 shooting. Also 8 of 10 from the line. Made his only 3, 5 rebounds. Has turned it over 3 times, but I'd say he's been a net positive in a big way.
Mr. Reliable, right? Now, don't forget our women's Sweet 16 matchups. Friday, ESPN and the app, the place to be. Carolina Duke, tip-off the day, 2:30 Eastern. Maryland and South Carolina, those games down in Birmingham. And then in Spokane, LSU, NC State. Ole Miss, UCLA, the 2 versus the 3. The 1 seed Lauren Betts and the Bruins against
A lot of chalk. A lot of chalk. They talk about the men's tournament. 1-5 in there, Ole Miss. The only thing from perfect seeding. How did that Duke North Carolina matchup in the Sweet 16 happen? I need to talk to Charlie Cream, our women's bracketologist, and why should I get all the abuse?
Do bracketologists compare notes?
Well, we're friends for a long time.
Okay.
Prior to ESPN. So we compare notes, sure, but There's enough differences in the process. We do our own thing, and a great follow by Walker.
22 and 8. Make it 23 and 8 for Chase Walker. Tied at 70. Williams, Walker, bothered that shot.
He walled him up, played stout, stayed vertical, no foul.
Chance for the Redbirds to reclaim the advantage. 10 ties, 10 lead changes. Guess who? Guess what? 25 points for number 35 for the Redbirds.
Credit Dalton Banks with a heady play, got in the lane, didn't rush, took his time and got a passing lane to the walking basket, Chase Walker.
Anderson, a wild sequence. Here come the Redbirds the other way, out of bounds. It'll stay on this end. 38.9 seconds to go.
How important was keeping Chase Walker from fouling out? We're about to see 4 good reasons. There are the first 2, and here are the second 2, and that's why Illinois State, here they are again, their quote-unquote largest lead of 2 at 38 seconds.
Redbirds in the double bonus. 11-second differential between the clocks, and a foul is going to be called on Jaden Williams. Now, Walker hasn't been great at the line. He did just make his last 2, but 5 of 9 overall in this game. And a couple of big ones coming up right now for ISU.
Seemed to struggle more in the end ones, and maybe a 1-and-1 than here, knowing he's got 2 in his pocket.
It's getting late in Daytona. Williams just fouled out. No Marcus Glover.
They're out of centers.
It'll be a small lineup the rest of the way. Walker comes in clutch.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went to that trap again, if they're able to come down and score. Of course, at the other end, Illinois State would love a 2-possession lead. That would feel like 20 the way this game is going.
2 of 2 and a 2-possession game. Walker's made 4 in a row at the line, and all in crunch time.
And a timeout for the Redbirds. I think they just took Walker out, knowing that Incarnate Word's going to have a smaller lineup. And this way they don't have to worry about the big fella guarding a 3-point shooter.
27 points.
Personally,
8 rebounds.
I'd leave him in and say, you just drop coverage in the lane and get the rebound.
He'll do that for you.
Indeed.
Sophomore from Columbus, Ohio. You're just tuning in. Really worked to get his game where it needs to be. The skill set, the physicality, the weight, and all that hard work has paid off in a big way for ISU in this comeback. And right now, a 4-point lead, the largest advantage the Redbirds in this game.
I guess you take him out too because you're worried about his foul shooting, but he's up to 7 for 11 now. Timeout, UIW. And it is their final timeout. Kind of surprised down 2 possessions to take it here. Would think they'd rather score and take it. But there's a reason we're sitting with headsets.
The last time that we found out about you coaching, you were leading a team to an 0-15 mark.
And it would have been 16 if it didn't snow on the last day. But we went out for ice cream, and I got Coach of the Year votes.
Amazing how that works, Mr. Bracketology. 27 and 8 for Chase Walker. He has been Mr. Consistent, and the free throw shooting has rounded into form when it really needed to.
That's a pretty impressive stat line for a really impressive young big man. I mean, there's so few true centers anymore where, you know, the object of a possession is to throw it to the biggest guy, right? We just don't see much basketball like that anymore.
No.
But why not if he's the biggest, best player in the building?
All right, an interesting formation here.
Wow.
Appears to be a 4 wideout set near midcourt.
Tripp's right.
They empty the backfield here with 32 seconds to go. And pops out to Jalen Anderson.
I've seen that on the baseline, but not at midcourt.
Same. Heyman off of his fingertips, but last touch by Banks. ISU perhaps 25.7 seconds away from punching its ticket into the championship tomorrow.
Killed 10 of the seconds left. Didn't get a shot.
Heyman, contested 3, drains it. 1-point game. 22.5 to go. And a foul.
Well, that's
the best free throw shooter on the court.
From Kinzinger's career going all the way back to Biddy Ball, how often do you think he's been the guy to get fouled at the end of the game? But what a shot by Heyman over Davis.
42% three-point shooter this season for Dylan Heyman. Kinzinger has missed 1 tonight. I think that 2 is 4 of 6. Now 5 of 7. Even with another make, though, Joe, this still remains a 1-possession game.
He may not miss another one until next season.
You're testing it out right now.
That's exactly right. He may not hit the rim until next season.
Johnny answers the bell. Shot clock is off, trailing by 3. Heyman launching again. Not this time. Banks has it. Finally found with 8.1 remaining.
Banks tried to give it up to Kinzinger and didn't quite get it to him in time, but 2 free throws coming. Not a great free throw shooter, 66.7%, but he really only needs 1 for the Redbirds to exhale.
3 of 4 tonight. I'm rounding up the 66.7, by the way, to a solid 67. The lead is 4.
Well, in my line of work, there's a pretty big difference between 66 and 67.
Indeed. How about this comeback by ISU in a game? It's featured 10 ties and 11 lead changes. 5 seconds away. Anderson's got to pull 1. He does. It's too strong. That will do it. Illinois State comes back to advance to the CBI championship game tomorrow at 5 Eastern.
And they post their largest lead as the final margin.
And Kinzinger, just for fun, drained a half-court shot.
Naturally.
That did not count. Redbirds now have won 21 games this year. 5th place finish in the Missouri Valley. And awaiting the winner of our second semifinal. It's coming up next here on ESPNU between Florida Gulf Coast and Cleveland State.
If Illinois State had been seeded, if this were a seeded event, the Redbirds would have been the 1 seed, and they're in the final, which is where they belong.
An impressive second half after trailing by 3 at the break. And the Redbirds and head coach Ryan Peden, year number 3, just enough left in the tank to get the job done as Incarnate Word is eliminated.
But also the best Division I season for the Cardinals. They get the first postseason victories in school history. And they have to go home feeling pretty good about themselves, but it's just so hard for the seniors.
Joe Lenardi, I'm Roy Philpott. Second semifinal coming up next.